Welcome, Benjamin.
Thank you.
Give him another round of applause. Benjamin.
Thank you, everyone.
So, the same rules as earlier. Please chime in. The microphones are still there. We will also see your questions on Slido, but we'd also like to hear your voices. But before you know what to ask, you need to know a little bit more about Benjamin. So we will start with, I'd like to know more about what you're actually doing, Urban Sports Club. What is that all about?
Well, what we're basically aiming for is actually to inspire people to lead an active and healthy life. And the way we're doing it is by bringing actually all the sports activities and well-being activities of your city together into one single membership. Yeah? That means we aggregate the activities of every sports venue, talking about yoga studios, talking about climbing venues, talking about gyms, bring them all together, aggregate them, and you can access them all with your single membership via your app.
And how did that start? You don't seem to me like somebody who's like needs to be motivated into doing sports, but what you're doing is that you're trying to help people lower their barriers into that, as I understand it.
It actually started because of having some personal trouble to do sports. I felt that the barriers were too high to do sports, and I started my first startup really focusing actually on football, so on commercial football venues. And I wanted to make it easier to play against friends, against colleagues, without having a team, without playing in a club, basically, but having really the flexibility of looking at your schedule, saying, hey, Wednesday evening, I would have time to play football, and then finding the right people on the platform and the right pitch that has availability. That didn't work out, actually. Okay. That was in 2010. Okay. But still, I had that issue that I want to do sports, I want to do more sports. I really enjoy doing sports, by the way, that's true. But I felt there were too many obstacles actually in the way of doing it. So what we did then in the end, we pivoted our model to talk in a bit of startup language here, and came up with Urban Sports Club. Not focusing on football, but rather on the whole variety and diversity of sports, and bringing them all together then.
Now, it's really, really tough building any type of business. And as you said, the first one didn't work. You pivoted into what now seems to work. Yes, it works. But how do you keep that motivation up for yourself to go through that toughness? Because from my own experience, you need something much bigger than the goal of earning money or building a business by itself. You need some sort of higher motivation. What is that for you?
Yeah, certainly true. Like establishing a company is a really painful thing. As I said, the first startup was a fail. It was bootstrapped just with my own money and the money of a friend who was my co-founder at that time. Also second one, Urban Sports Club, we also bootstrapped that at the beginning. And since it didn't work out at the beginning, and we were kind of, that phrase that we just saw, that sometimes future looks ridiculous, that actually happened also to us, because all the investors, where we were pitching our concept, felt like no one needs that flexibility. Like, kind of, isn't everyone happy with that 12-month contract at the gym? We thought, no, we don't think that everyone is happy of sticking and being bound in that contract. So it took us really long to convince other stakeholders that this idea is not as bad as it looks at the beginning, maybe for them. And that also led to the fact that I was really running out of money. Your friends and family start doubting whether it really makes sense to continue doing that. So yeah, you really have some ups and downs there. And like the motivation is basically that you feel, sounds arrogant, you feel that you already know something that the others don't know. And that you want to really like also prove that you're on the right track. And it's not about, and I think that also is something that I had when I was young. I was not motivated by school grades or by money. I was really motivated by showing like change, or by actually supporting others in having a good time.
And so you're practically building a part of the future that you see. So there must be some idea about what future you want to participate in or have in in the world, and Urban Sports Club creates a part of that. When you extrapolate that a little bit and talk about where does Urban Sports Club fit into that future that you're trying to build?
Well, when I started my first startup, I was one of those business class travelers as a consultant, and well, I had the huge urge of having something very flexible because I was working every week, kind of in a different city, and I couldn't make any plans when I would really have time to do sports. So I felt this is the life of a consultant, but this is going beyond. At that time, like the first companies like Telefonica started having not their 12, 24-month contracts for your mobile phone, but like that you have what's called O2O at that time. So you had that airbags that you never will pay more than 40 euro for making phone calls. And it was really fitting to that time that life is becoming more flexible and that everyone's kind of striving for the freedom of choice on a daily basis. And it felt to me that like that's what also needed for sports.
So what I read from that is that the future you see is more much more flexible. That the lives we live are much more fluid in all aspects, on a personal level, but also on a work level, I guess. So how many people work at Urban Sports Club at the moment?
450.
Okay, so with those 450, do you practice something like that future within the company as a culture already?
Yes, it's actually a really big topic, and it's one of the questions that people ask when they want to work for us. What's in for them? So yeah, we talk about benefits like coffee or work from home. Yeah, but work from home, how does it really look like, right? Do we provide the technology that is really working? We also offer like desk swaps. So you want to work in our Lisbon office in January or in Paris or in Rome. So then, yeah, let's talk about that. You have the right to do so, and to really use technology like to make it work. So that means basically that every meeting, someone is not there but is kind of connected via a monitor. So that's one of the things where we see that the demand for flexibility of where you work is increasing, but also, of course, when you start or how you measure it, actually.
Yeah. Do you get feedback from others about this? Because what I observe in my own endeavors, but also in other organizations, that it becomes harder and harder to motivate young, talented people to take part in building what your vision is. Does it tie in? Is that helpful?
Well, I agree. It's challenging, and you definitely need to rethink what you offer and how you do it on a pretty constant basis. What I really feel is important is like the matter of caring. So that like an employee feels that you really care about him and actually first about your employee before you really care about your customer. Because and my perspective really on that is that if your employees feel that you care of them, they will be able to care about your customers actually in a much better way than they would just do it by someone telling them to care. So for us, like caring and then also building a community around it is kind of part of the company culture, and we believe that really helps people also to be motivated and to lift their inner potential.
So it's like in the early days with the football. Your first idea, you're using the product yourself in the company. Is that right?
Yes, there's like we have, for example, a lot of team events that usually starts with a sports activity that people are doing together before they go out for dinner or something similar.
So when I envision this future, that we've been thinking about the future a lot in the last session or in the last exercise. This morning, there will be a lot of changes, very likely. We will automate a lot. The type of work we will change a lot. What's your take on sports and activity like sports in a world where there's no real need for so much work anymore?
Yeah, that's a good one. Well, first of all, I feel that like with the automation of work, the people who are actually working will be challenged even more. So it's more than on empathy, on communication, on leadership, and I feel that, at least that's my experience, and that's how it looks to me, that like the stress level actually is increasing for the people, although we're automating more and more processes. So that on the other side means that you need to have those people really having their full mind and concentration on the work while they're working. And like talking about my experience here, I need sports actually to kind of to fresh up, to clear my mind, and to come up with new ideas, to really be creative and to work on new things. And there I believe that sports becomes a crucial part, and is I think in the meanwhile really accepted in the society as being something not just a fun activity, but something really where you do something for yourself, actually to evolve and to become stronger. And that's also what we see from employers now, where they like to invest in the health of their employees, not only in production workers maybe, but like really on also the creative people, to ensure that they're in their full strength.
Yeah. We've experimented with meditation and mindfulness at a company, and it had measurable positive impacts. Absolutely.
That's actually what I mean. Talking mostly about sports, but like meditation or massage is also part of our offering, because we feel it starts where you do something for yourself and where you take like a conscious break to come up stronger afterwards.
Yeah. I often get the feeling that when I'm stuck in a day, I try to reboot that day. So I go back where I started it, and I actually try and reboot it. And most of the time it works, and it always has something to do with an activity breaking out of the cycle. So having a spontaneous option of doing that in forms of sports sounds good to me.
So I still have the issue that my wife tells me, oh, you definitely need to do sports, and just sends me out.
Okay. There's when you were talking about the fact that there is a link, or that's how I read it, a link between the mind and your concentration and the regulation of stress and the body. This reminded me of a very inspiring talk I heard recently about what happens in the Nordic countries about a bit more than 100 years ago, where the Nordic countries picked up an idea that came out of the circles of Goethe, to say that we are in a transition, which was in the 1840s, sometime 1830s. They had this idea: we are in a transition in a political way, and this transition requires very well-grounded people. So let's offer as a public service, let's offer meditation retreats. And in Germany, we didn't implement that, but the Nordics did. And it's all well summed up in a book called The Nordic Secret, that it's spread all over the Nordics. And somehow I had this feeling that with what you're doing, we're going through a massive transition. We don't know where we're headed. We know we need strong people to navigate all the challenges that we have, and this could be a contributor.
I think the Nordics are definitely advanced in those terms. We see, like, also if you look at the penetration rates of people who have actually a gym membership, or who go to sports activities on a regular basis, the penetration is way higher than we have it in Germany. It's definitely crucial also for us actually to look at what they're doing and to learn from them. We also see now cities, as in Germany, for example, Munich, is quite ahead in offering now public sports in parks, trying to motivate people for free to join the activities. Because I feel that like every organization feels the need now to make people move.
Yeah, like the November project that started in the US. People just getting together outside, doing things. Yes. Where do you start? We've been talking about work and about the work space and people in our age group more or less. But I just my son is up in the urban sports club space, and he was chatting with one of the employees. So how he's 10. So how early do you start? How
Well, we currently don't have an offer for kids.
Yeah.
Although actually from Spain, for example, from Portugal, we get many requests because for them it's like doing family sports. It's quite normal. So you meet at a gym on a Saturday and you go there as a whole family and then split apart for the activities and then come back. And we currently don't have family memberships, but demand for that is certainly increasing. And I feel also that this is a trend actually in Germany, that like doing sports becomes an activity that used to be just going to a restaurant where you meet with friends and have a talk, but now you go bouldering with friends. You chat while you do sports. So I feel that it's a new type of group sports kind of, where we also will need to help.
I'm a bit distracted because I see the questions coming up.
Okay, I can see it on here.
Is there one that jumps out at you? Because otherwise, I will pick one that I really like.
Well, I would just go with the first one. Actually, has most of the thumbs. So luck that has helped me to get where I am. Well, I think I was lucky that I actually grew up in a family where my dad established a business, like at the age of 30. He was establishing a business, it was an HR consultancy actually. And like he got kicked out at the age of 17. And my mother was like from also kind of a poor farmer's family. So they had nothing actually, no financial resources. But then on the other hand showed me like how hard work can actually like help you to establish something, to build up a business. They actually never recommended me to start my own business because they felt it was just too much work. So my mother always wanted me to become a teacher, actually.
That's funny, mine too.
But like I think I was very lucky to see what you can achieve, even with not many resources, and it really like helped me. And actually, I just learned that about myself some years later, though not actually when I was starting my business, but I think that it was very inspiring to me that you can like create something. And it was actually the main motivation for myself that I saw, well, it must feel great to establish something where families can live from. And I think I was lucky really to have someone like going that path and to see how it could work. And
I'd like to pick the second one because it's very similar to one that I wanted to ask you anyway, but a little later on. If there's one superpower that you would wish for in what you want to accomplish in the world, what would that superpower be?
It's also a tough one. Well, I feel that what will never be replaced by machines is empathy. So being able to walk in the shoes of your counterpart or of other people, sharing emotions, and I think that superpower would also help in many negotiations and conflicts that we're having around the world. If like every human would make use of it or would have it in the extent needed. Looking at what are the 450 people doing and whether we're going to replace them soon by an algorithm, most of them actually do relationship management. So they stay close to the studios, they stay close to our corporate clients, where we feel they don't want to just have something out of the box and then they will never hear from us again. So we feel we need to work on those relationships because they change over time, the demand is changing. And that's why we have people in so many different cities. So they're not all based in Berlin, but we have in every country, besides France, that's a classic one. We have multiple offices where we do basically relationship management.
And do you, I can imagine there's a link between the empathy somebody can feel towards another person and their groundedness themselves. And I think also imagining things like team sports, that this can be practiced through sports. Is that something you measure?
No. No, we don't measure currently the effects on team sports, for example, within companies. It's a very good one, and actually we would have the activities to do so, but we're currently not doing it. What we do, and we truly believe actually in the importance of team sports, is like we offer, for example, a company league where corporates play against each other every week. So they can send a team. Doesn't need to be the same people every week, but they send a team and their referees, and so it's basically a football tournament that happens every week. And it is kind of a team event. And we feel, and that also accounts for the company culture I was referring to, that this like those kinds of events create a community atmosphere within companies, which is very important for the retention and for the happiness of the employees.
I'm trying to put two questions together because what you're building is a two-ended marketplace, right? And we haven't been talking about the sports clubs or the gyms themselves so much. And building on the energy idea and also the future of your business, do you think you can create secondary business models in the future where you help those gyms sell energy or do other things that they could now already monetize, but they haven't seen it yet, using your scale and your possibilities?
It's a very nice idea, and like, first of all, why not? And to be honest, of course, like, I haven't thought of it because we feel that we are in the middle of a change process for that industry and that we're kind of at the beginning. And I see that question also around Uber and whether that is something comparable. Well, in that term, it is comparable that we want to enable people to start their own sports business, to link their business onto our platform, to really focus on sports, to focus on the people in their clubs, and getting rid of processes like marketing, accounting, all the legal work, so that we want to offer out of one hand.
Okay, wow. So you could basically offer everything except the physical space.
Exactly.
Okay. So I like that question on the bottom. You can't see it here, but Max is asking, what's with the rural parts in the countries? Or are you going to stay urban, or is there going to be a RSC once?
The rural sports club. Well, actually, we're going to urbanize the rural areas. So we already started doing that. In Germany, we are now operating in 50 cities. So yeah, if you really take on the word urban, it's probably not fitting to all the small towns we're now operating in. However, we feel that Urban Sports Club also transports kind of a lifestyle. That's why we, like said, we're going to stick to that name. Also, we are now offering it kind of on a countrywide level. So yes, whenever we start in a new country, we start in the largest cities and then go like beyond the capital usually as a starting point, and until we reached also smaller towns. That's, I mean, it's also needed in terms of like company sports, because like we talked about that people are working from home, that they work actually from basically everywhere, maybe from a hotel, or about companies who have like multiple branches and locations, and to offer something for all of those people, you need to have a very broad network.
I want to take the last like 30 seconds to open it up to you guys directly again. Is there anybody who wants to shout out a question? No. So
it's all in written.
So they're all convinced, just like me. So I'm gonna seriously look into becoming a member there.
Do that.
and thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.